So, Usher, who is hot on everybody's lips at the moment after his controversial performance with Alicia Keys at the latest Super Bowl, is boasting that this Super Bowl had more views than the Apollo 11 landing that took place in 1969, which I think is wild. Firstly, because that's the year that my mum was born. So if you're telling me it's taken the entirety of her life for there to be an event with that amount of people watching, and the difference in those two things, because I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, although the Super Bowl, I feel like, was and still is in a lot of senses a very wholesome family style event, like a lot of other big sporting events where people come together, watch the game, you might have an event for it with your friends or with your family or whatever, and it's a time when the communities in the world come together, whatever team you support, you guys come together and it's all very nice, have a little bit of healthy rivalry, and I think it's good for society and it's good for all of our mental healths, with all of the mental I wanted to say mental healths and I said mental healths, but maybe mental healths was the right phrase. With all the mental healths that we go through, a lot of the time it's nice to have these types of things. Unfortunately, I feel the reason why this Super Bowl has had so many views, has an increase in views, is the increasing number of people coming to only watch the halftime show. So if it wasn't Usher saying this, I wouldn't make this video, basically, is what I'm saying here. But it's the fact that he's taking some kind of pride in this and therefore in his participation is where I'm having a serious issue, because this is nothing to be proud of. This is nothing for us in society to be proud of, that a lot of people are now watching the Super Bowl for these Super Bowl performances that are taking over the attention of what was and still is, and I hope we will restore it to be an important, not even an unimportant, I would say an important and also wholesome event that takes place every year. That's a lovely occasion for everybody. And I just want to say that if you are one of the people who just feels like you only watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show, I think that whole thing is getting very out of hand now. And unfortunately, I think that's exactly what's happened with this. And if that is what is happening, if people have been tuning, if we're at the stage in society where the Apollo 11 landing, right, which is an actually incredible moment for all of history and science, a complete wonder for people. This is us seeing huge steps in the progression of technology. That is an event worth so many people watching. If we're saying that all of these extra people, these potential extra views, which I feel like just the simple fact of Usher mentioning it and what other people might be thinking is because of to do with this halftime show, is because people are watching him and Alicia Keys being inappropriate, given that he had got married, I think 3 days before, and she's also in a relationship. I don't know if she's married or if she's just, if her and Swizz are married or if they're in a relationship. You never know these days. They could, I don't know, they could be in a polygamous relationship. They could be in an open relationship. Heck, they could be in, I don't know what they could be in at this day and age. This is 2024. I'm not judging, I'm just saying. But what I am also saying is that's weird and wild. So we are so ready to just tune in to whatever the crazy concoction of hollyweird is going to be in the middle of the Super Bowl, right? And if there's anybody, by the way, a lot of people who watch my channel are older than me. Please tell me what the Super Bowl was like back in the days, like before even maybe I was born, like maybe 15, 20 years ago. Tell me how I was born obviously 26 years ago, guys, well, technically 27, but anyway. Tell me what it was like, because there's so many things that I see happening today and I feel like they're so nice in concept, like they're so nice for what I feel like they're supposed to be, but what they're becoming is sad, and it's also taking away the attention of the good, wholesome parts of it. And if people are really doing this, like this is nothing for us to be proud of. The Apollo 11 landing versus Usher and Alicia Keys is not something that I think we should be proud of. Not to mention the fact that I did throw out there the idea, like, and I'm not saying 100%, but somebody did explain to me about the projections of the betting and what actually did happen for the scoring and everything, and how they also thought it was a little bit sus what's going down. I'm just finding these events in general a bit sus, because let's just say this, let's put all conspiracies to the side and let me just make a point about this, because this is really what the point is of all of this. Think about it like this. How many times I'm going to say this? Take a shot every time I say this. No, don't do that, because don't do that unless it's a shot of water. Anyway, this is the level of influence. I can't believe I said it again. That's the influence though. That many people at that time are all watching the show. So do you not understand why, of course, I believe that the entertainment industry is doing things so strategically on purpose? Why would you have Usher, who's known to be this like overly sexual? Like, it's too much for me. Like, I look at Usher and I feel like just watching him dance on all these different women on stage all the time, I feel like I'm going to catch something just watching him. Not to mention the fact, I feel like that whole overly whatever thing isn't even sexy. Is it sexy for some women out there? I don't know. Because for me, that's not even really very masculine behaviors. I can't even lie to you. So I don't even see the attraction there, for starters. You know, I used to think Usher was attractive when I was like younger, when I was like a teenager. You know, I've grown up now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm like, people actually, like, that was my first thought. I was like, wow, people think, is he still something with all of those funny moves that he does and that weird, like, that he does? Like, I can't stand all that cringy, like, Usher, Jason Derulo. Like, I can't do all of that, guys. But, you know, that's for them. But for that to be what people are watching, him just got married apparently a couple of days ago, her who's in a relationship. What do you think is the message here? Well, this is fine. This is normal for all of the people who are watching, which is more than the number of people that were watching the Apollo 11 landing in 1969, right? Are now being influenced. How many people do you think are going to use this as an excuse? Because this is what I've been saying to you guys. Like, one of the things we have to understand, I've been talking a lot about selling your soul to the devil, and how the heart of selling your soul to the devil is compromise. It's as soon as you start to compromise on your morals and values, because it's always the initial compromise doesn't seem that big of a deal. People like me are always made out to sound like I'm making a big deal out of nothing in the beginning. But when this becomes more and this becomes more, because you know what's going to happen next? The next thing is going to be like, well, of course it's normal to be kissing somebody else while you're in a relationship. Well, of course it's normal to be doing this with somebody else in your relationship. Next thing you know, we're just going to, and I full blown believe this will happen. It sounds crazy to everyone right now. I full blown believe there's going to be a point in time, and I believe I'm young enough to see it. I genuinely believe I'll be young enough to see the time when there becomes a justification as to why married couples are just having sex with other people, and they're still considered married and still considered exclusive and still considered committed to one person. And there's going to be a justification that society is going to agree with. I truly believe that, because that's how these things happen, because we just start with a little bit of compromise and a little bit more compromise and a little bit more compromise and a little bit more. I've been talking about this a lot because I see it and I experience it, guys. I'm a human the same as anybody else. It's not like I'm some kind of perfect saint in this life. I go through the things that other people go through. And I notice that, the devil doesn't come knocking on doors, knocking, and you open the door and there he is with these big horns with flames coming out from everywhere, looking scary as anything. No, he doesn't. He comes looking at something that's basically harmless. Like, it's not going to do anything. Like, it's like what people say to me about spiders, and why I have such an issue with spiders. Because people are like, spiders, they're basically harmless. I'm like, but a spider has the ability to bite me, as small as it is, and kill me. So don't tell me that I'm crazy and that the spider's going to do nothing. And the more I watch society, the more I'm like, I think I'm actually following the wisdom of the Lord. Like, maybe I shouldn't be just trusting a spider sitting in the corner of my room or the corner of my house. Because when I'm asleep and when my guard is down, that thing can make an attack, just like a snake. And how they bite you and you don't even know you've been bitten. It's always this, it's just harmless mentality that everybody has. Oh, it's just a little bit of fun. Oh, it's just a performance. Oh, really? Oh, really? It's just a performance now, until that helps to normalize in the entertainment industry even more these types of things, because it's just harmless now. But what happens when now, because they've done that there, all of the couples who are married couples, where there used to be certain lines when it comes to acting and stuff, now it's an expectation. So if you as a woman say, I'm not comfortable doing this because I'm married, or whatever, now this is why the entertainment industry is like it, because we allow it. If the entertainment industry wasn't allowing these things, if we as society were standing our ground, these things wouldn't happen. But we'll say in the early stages like this, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Homeboy was just married a couple of days ago. Do you not even want to at least keep your body clean and sanctified for the fact that you have just married somebody? I'm like, don't even stand 10 meters near me. I have been claimed. I'm off the market, okay? I'm a married woman. I'm a married man. Like, what are you talking about? Talking about just touching and I don't care if you can do it platonically and without having any kind of, feelings or like whatever. It's about respect. Respect for yourself and respect for the other person. Because I'm telling you, we're just one more step away from a worldwide orgy at this point. I'm just ready for it. I'm ready for this to happen. I'm ready. We're ready. This is why I say to people all the time, people are like, oh, we're going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm like, I feel like we've already outdone Sodom and Gomorrah. We've already outdone Sodom and Gomorrah, honestly. It's just that a lot of it's being done and hidden, especially in these Hollywood parties that nobody knows about. That even the likes of some of these Christian folks are being found out to be in, which doesn't surprise me, by the way. I'm not surprised. Just to let anybody know, I haven't talked about it because I'm irritated that people are surprised that there are even Christian folks in these weird Hollywood parties. Like, duh. What do you expect? This is the nature of humanity. This is what happens when we don't pay attention to the signs. Because a lot of these people that are being caught out, even Christian folks, I saw the signs. I see the signs. Like, I'm seeing the signs right now of, oh, we're all going to be like, oh, this is not a big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Like, oh, well, it's just that, he was, and somebody was like, well, he married his wife 3 days ago, so he's obviously only thinking about her. No, he's not obviously only thinking about her. No, he's not obviously only thinking about her. Are you in his mind? Do you know that for a fact? And even Alicia Keys, like, imagine how disrespectful it would be, like, for a guy to see a picture of his woman all over with someone like Usher. Like, I would find that to be so disrespectful if I was a man. Like, how dare you be looking so laughing and enjoying yourself? And this is what starts arguments in relationships, because they'd be like, I ain't seen you laughing like that with me. I ain't seen you doing all that with me. And whatever. That's how these arguments start in relationships, because we're all busy just out here being everybody's doing anything and everything with everybody. There was a time when even catching like STDs and STIs was like so much more taboo. Do you guys remember those days? I'm even old enough to remember those days when it was like more taboo that people doing that. Now it's just normalized. Even people are joking about Usher, who's historically been known to apparently pass around herpes to people. It was like, oh yeah, this is what he does. So it's part of the package, and no pun intended. Is this what we're doing in society today? Like, I just can't understand this stuff, guys. Like, I genuinely am not saying this, guys, to be provocative. I'm genuinely not saying this because I hate anybody or I think I'm better. I'm just the same as everybody else. I'm just the same. I face the same temptations. I face the same opportunities to compromise my morals and values, just the same as everybody else. To be completely honest, the temptations that I have dealt with are men who I think are far more attractive than Usher. To be completely honest. I think are far more attractive than Usher. That's why I'm even looking at Hollywood. And I'm not saying this stuff because I'm just here sitting on some other high horse somewhere where I don't live a part of the normal human life. But I'm here as somebody who has to sit there and say to myself, well, how do I want to conduct myself and value myself? What is the influence that the industry is having? And what is these things? What is it going to do? Is it going to now give people more of an excuse to then be like, oh, well, it was just innocent, right? Next thing it'll be kissing on the cheek. It's just innocent. He's just my work husband. It's just innocent. He's married. Like, he just took his wife to Hawaii last week for their 10th anniversary. Nothing's going to happen. Like, what are you talking about? Until that one night at the work party that you guys had in the office and nobody else is there and it just happens to be you guys and all of a sudden you didn't know what you were doing. You were drunk. Right. And that's if you even decide to tell anybody, because this is the other thing that I find is so fascinating about us as humans and why I think trusting people in relationships is tough, right? Because for you to even know that somebody's doing something, you have to know in the first place. You have to know in the first place, because especially if you've never been to where somebody works or sees what somebody does, you don't know what they're doing at their workplace. You don't know what they're doing, whatever. Some people don't realize that the reason why their husband and or wife is not interested in having sex with them is because they already did what they needed to do before they came home. You're thinking you're doing something wrong, beating yourself up. Some of you are worried about, oh, my wife doesn't talk to me. She's so quiet. I'm worried about who she's talking to. Oh, she's talking to the work hubby. She's talking to the work hubby, my friend. They're going to get themselves some food at lunchtime together and talk about their problems. And he's dropping her off after work to save her petrol. And all sorts of things, or gas, as they call it in America. All these little blurred lines in society, guys, that start off as innocent things. And it just goes from one thing to another thing to another thing. And it's just like spiders. This is why I honestly believe that the Lord has allowed me to have the experience I've had with spiders. I've had a horrible experience with spiders because I realize they're very smart in the ways that people don't give them credit for. They know what they're doing. Because even the other day, there was this one spider and it kept sitting in one position and it would hide, but I would notice that it would come out, right? When it would try to come out. What I was noticed about this spider one day, I think the spider didn't expect for anybody to be where it was because it came out again. This went on over a week. The spider's called Philip and named the spider Philip in the end, right? I was watching the spider and I was like, as soon as I came out and I was like, oh, that's the first thing I said. And obviously the vibrations of my voice and whatever. And Philip goes crawling back into the little corner. I was like, yeah, you thought I didn't know you were there. I knew you were there. In fact, I just decided that I was going to wait to see what you were going to do. And obviously off you've gone and run and hid again because you're a little scared and you didn't want to be caught. But when it suits you, if it's quiet and dark, when everybody's not paying attention, what do? You creep and crawl even closer. When no one's paying attention, you creep and claw even closer. What is it that you're trying to do in here, bro? You got a whole wide world to live in. God created a huge universe that you can go and be anywhere in. And you're trying to be up in here in my ear or in my, do you know what I'm saying? Or even just sitting on the wall. Get the freak out of the house. What are you doing here? This is what I'm saying about the devil. The creeping and the crawling. The creeping and the crawling. The compromise. Right? How close can I get? That's why I believe that Satan came as a snake to Adam and Eve in the beginning, to Eve. It's a snake. What do snakes do? Snakes are not like, this is why, guys, I love animals like dogs and lions, you know, big animals that like roar and like bark at you, because if they're going to attack you, you're not going to be surprised that you got done. You're not going to be surprised. If you die by being eaten by a lion, you're not going to be shocked at what happened. You're not going to get to the other side and be like, oh my gosh, how did I die? But guess what? That could happen with a snake bite. You know why? Because you can be out and about doing whatever you're doing, and the snake bites you without you even seeing, slithers away. Because you know what? It's just going to wait for what it's doing to affect you. And then when the effect is running around through your bloodstream, and you now pass out and you now fall down in those last few seconds, right? As you start to watch your eyes haze out, you're going a bit delirious, hallucinating. In comes the snake again. In comes the snake ready to devour. And that's exactly what Satan is doing, guys. That's what Satan is doing. That's exactly what I'm trying to say to you. He wants us to walk into the snake's pit. He wants us to talk to the snake. Why was Eve talking to the snake? And why was Adam not slaying the freaking snake? Who trusts the snake? Do you guys see what I'm saying? Like the compromising, it's not that big of a deal. A snake can kill you and you won't even know you died from a snake because you never saw it. The spider can kill you and you'll never know because you never saw it. That's how the devil works. He does things that you don't see. He doesn't come in like screaming at you in front of your face. He comes in seemingly harmless. Oh, it's just a dance. They're just doing whatever. Okay, that's right. I'm sure that's the case. That's all they're doing. All they're doing is they're just dancing. They're just having a good time with an old tune that they sang together 10 years ago or whatever it is, something like that. Until the venom starts to kick in. And all of a sudden, you start to think, why is it a bit of an itch on my ankle? Why has my blood pressure changed? Because you know what's interesting about snakes as well, I find very fascinating, which I'm not going to start talking about snake venom because it's going to get my video cut down. But let's just say there's a lot to do with snake venom and a lot to do with what's going on in the world right now. But anyway, you know that some of them, they can either restrict or what's the word? Cause your like blood vessels to dilate or to constrict, right? I think is the right term if I'm not mistaken. So that's a pretty insane way to kill somebody from the inside as opposed to from the outside. Like I said, that's why I trust dogs more, because a dog, yeah, it might bark at you, but hey, at least I can see you barking and at least you're there. A snake bites me. Listen, even if somebody sucks that out, some of that already made it into my bloodstream, potentially enough to really severely affect my bloodstream, potentially whatever. I still have to go and get tested for it. Also, all I'm going to say what I need to say is that a test that can be done for a snake bite is a PCR test. And so try not to get taken off of YouTube again. And so, you know, this is what I'm trying to say to you guys. We cannot compromise with the snake, is what I'm trying to say. We cannot compromise with the snake. We cannot compromise with seemingly harmful things, because those things will be later our destruction. And so that's why even when God says about things like, oh, I'm not going to go there because it's definitely going to get me taken off the YouTube. Okay, I'll try it. Even when God talks about things like the mark of the beast. So I'm saying, you guys starting to see how this stuff that sounds so overly symbolic and mystical in the Bible is actually like so directly, specifically, clearly honest about what's going on here. When we compromise, that is when we open the door to selling our soul to the devil, because it's like your soul is now bought. It's like, if you want to talk about the mark of the beast, when we compromise with our morals and values, it's like when you buy a house. When a house is bought, what happens? At first, the house is to buy. There's a to buy sign outside, right? There's a to buy sign outside. So that's what you're like. You come onto this earth and you're to buy. Now, the devil can't actually afford your soul, but he can get you to compromise. It's enough that you sell out. And then there's a sold sign, and you're now sold to Satan. And now the sign is saying sold, and you've been sold, guys. That's the mark of the beast. Or you can be sold to Christ, because why did Christ have to die? Why did he pay for our sins? Because there is a payment that needs to be required when it comes to your soul. Now, the devil can't afford it, but he can get you to compromise how you value it. And that's what all of this stuff is about. That's what I'm talking about. It can get you to compromise how you value it. It can get you to compromise how you value your body. It can get you to compromise how you value your husband, how you value your marriage, how you value your family, how you value society, how you value your career, how you value humans, how you value everything. He will get you to compromise. And when you compromise and you keep compromising, all of a sudden, when you started here, right, if you keep compromising to get to here, right, like for example, it's like if you are going to the gym. If you're going to the gym, and let's think about being in the kingdom of heaven as going to the gym, right? You have a specific gym regimen that you follow, and you keep going, and it keeps you consistent. And a nutrition strategy, whatever it is, you could eat intuitively, you could follow macros, you can follow calories, whatever works for you as long as it's healthy for you. If you start to consistently compromise with that, eventually the version of you that existed here doesn't exist anymore, because you're not doing the same amount of reps you were doing in the beginning. You're not running as much as you were, or increasing your running percentage. You're not tracking your macros anymore. And so either you're not getting enough of this thing, or you're getting too much of that thing, or whatever. If you keep compromising, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just, today I'm just going to do one less rep. If every day you do one less rep, eventually you're going to be doing no reps. If you keep saying to myself, I'm going to keep adding one more calorie, eventually you're going to be adding 1,000 more calories. It's only going to take you a couple of years to be adding 1,000 more calories. It's going to take you a couple of years to go from however many calories you started with. And so those many calories going into your body is going to take you from where you were here to where you are there. And that's how the devil works. Because if he came in and he told you, hey, listen, hi, in the beginning, I just even did a video about Nikocado Avocado. Do you think that if Nikocado Avocado knew when he started his journey being vegan, right, and everything, that if he just compromised his values just a little bit, he would end up where he is now? Do you think he knew that? It started off small, because if you see in the beginning, it was just the usual that people would do. Like, even if he was going to do the like buldak noodles and whatever, there was just a couple of them, and then they would actually still eat something healthy, and he was still vegan and whatever. Now it's just pure gluttony on the other side. And don't want you guys to think I'm ridiculing him, because I just did a whole video about how we're not ridiculing him. So just let's not get carried away with thinking that that's something I'm in favor of doing. Eventually, you're going to be over there. Eventually, you're not going to be in the same physique. It's like if you shower every day, if you decide that you're not going to shower every day, and then you start instead showering only 6 days a week, and then you start showering 5 days a week, and then 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week, eventually you're not showering. Eventually you're not going to be clean anymore. So I'm saying all of these analogies, guys, because I'm trying to really show people, like, there's so many things I'm concerned about. I'll tell you guys what I feel like my dedication is to this channel and this world right now. I'm going to say all the things that sound crazy, and I'm going to try and make it as plain in English as possible, right? Because I know, because I've seen it and I'm living in it right now, that 10 years from now, so many of the things that we're overlooking and so many of the small, tiny compromises that we're making, we're going to be regretting 10 years from now. And just like I said with Nikocado Avocado in the previous video, once we get to that point over there, we're going to wonder how we got there, but we're not going to think about the things that we thought were just harmless. We're not going to think about the fact that we were just doing small compromises in the beginning. We're not going to think about how those small compromises affect us and the people around us. Because it might be one thing that you might want to justify your compromisation. Like, that's why I think a lot of people are justifying, a lot of women in particular, justifying this whole Usher and Alicia Keys thing. Why? Because if they're in an Usher concert, they want to have Usher doing all his dance all over them, which I for sure don't. By the way, because I'm scared to catch something, like I said, for starters, right? They want to be able to justify this. They want to be able to justify, like, oh, well, I was just out with my friends. Why do you think people want to justify these compromises? People are doing it, and this is what makes it even more sinister and demonic for me, is that deep down, you just want to justify things people justify things they want to get away with. That's why, as a society, we can all agree that, doing inappropriate adult behaviors with underage individuals is problematic. The reason we've societally agreed upon that is because societally, most people don't even have anything close to an interest in doing that. But when it comes to things like lying, all of a sudden, we have different opinions. Why? Because you might feel like there's times where you want to get away with lying. When it comes to other things, all of a sudden we want to start to decipher, like, when it comes to, like, is it emotional cheating versus physical cheating? Because why? Because you want to be able to talk to whoever you want to talk to about your emotions. So of course you're going to be on the side of encouraging it. That's honestly why I think that, I a lot of the time have to be honest with myself in my videos, and sometimes I'm trying to live up to the better version of myself that I'm presenting, in the sense of, like, I don't want to try and justify something that I don't want. Also, for me with stuff like this, I find no interest, like in Alicia Keys or thing, I find absolutely no interest in touching another man other than the one man that I'm dedicating myself to. I have no other interest, there's no other space in my brain, and, like, that's enough. Also, men are dirty creatures, so, like, you know what I'm saying? With respect, we love you guys, right? But we pick our poison, and then we stick with the poison that we picked. We can't just be taking all the poison that's available. That's just stupid now. But do you guys understand what I'm saying, though? So, yeah. So I just wanted to talk about that, because I know that people are gonna kind of make out like this isn't a big deal, and, like, anybody who's talking against it is making a big deal out of nothing, and, like, this is just whatever. And it's like, sure, I hope you're right, because if you're wrong, 10 years from now, we're going to be, God knows where, 30, 40, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, dinner party for couples dinner party is going to have a whole new meaning. People are not going to be needing to leave things like pineapples on their door frames and whatever they do these days to tell people that they're swinging and whatever and all that stuff. And these private parties. It's going to become the norm. Eventually, we're going to become the people that, like, not doing this stuff makes you weird, like a lot of stuff now. Like how me as a woman, even saying, stuff like some of the stuff that I say, that I would love to have, be married and have children. Oh, no. You're brainwashed by the patriarchy. You can be an independent woman. It's like, wow, so that's just offensive. My life isn't affecting you. What I do isn't affecting you. Why are you so offended by my behavior? Because if I'm doing this, it's and you know why people do this, guys, as well? Because deep down people know what's right and wrong. So when you're doing the thing that's not the thing that's the right thing, and people know that, and you're not just going along with it, I realized that this is a certain point in my life that sometimes I always used to wonder a lot why I have certain situations with people, and I always used to think I was the problem, and I've always told myself I was the problem, also because I've been told a lot of times that I was the problem, so many times. But then one day, in my discussions with the Lord, especially recently, I realized that the threatening thing for people isn't that I'm doing something wrong. It's that the fact that I'm proving there's another option other than the destructive one is exactly what is threatening people in the first place, because they're like, well, we don't want to have to acknowledge that you're doing the right thing, because it means that we can actually do better. It means that somebody's proving there is a better option. It means that somebody's poking. We want to all feel like we're all doing the wrong decision together, because as long as we're all doing the wrong decision together, then it's fine. Then I can feel justified by the crowd mentality thing and the herd mentality where we all did it together. The problem comes when one person decides that they're not doing it, because then it challenges everybody else and you become isolated, because like, well, I don't want to participate in that type of behavior. And then you're like, well, everybody else wants to be offended at you. Like, you see the same thing with having this discussion with some people that I know. Like, it was a person that I know, because we're talking about this thing that happens with black girls these days. And I remember there was this one girl, she had a party, and she said in the thing, oh, I shouldn't even go there. I'm just so controversial. I don't know. I don't do it on purpose, guys. I don't think I'm controversial, by the way. I actually genuinely just think I just love the Lord and I trust in God more than anything. And because of the world I live in, that makes me controversial. But I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to. What I'm trying to do is help everybody win in life. What I'm trying to do is spread love and light and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. So, but apparently I'm controversial, and it's only because, again, I say things that's not popular in society, because society would rather just us be this whole huge just cesspool of destruction and debauchery and all these things. I'm not going to give the story about this girl, by the way, guys, because I've gone too far. I've gone too far with this video already, but let's just say that people get offended when they want to do something that they kind of know is destructive. Somebody else decides that they don't want to be involved in something that's destructive. And then because that person doesn't want to be involved in the thing that's destructive, then they become isolated, because everybody else wants to feel like, well, we don't want to feel bad about what we're doing. We just don't. That's all it is about. It's just that it's not that anybody's particularly noble. It's just that we just don't want to feel bad about what we're doing. And so imagine the impact of all of this that I've just said. This little step of compromise that had more people viewing it than the Apollo 11 landing in 1969. 55 years ago. Imagine if there is a little seed of compromise planted in every single person watching, what the forest of destruction will look like in the years to come. If life's a game, let's play to win.